13, hell yeah. All right, everybody, ready to roll? What's up, everybody? This is Joe Adams. Welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. Today, we have a very special guest once again, the first lady to be on the podcast ever, Mrs. Whitney Wiser Savage.
Good to be here.
Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, like what you do. Just keep it simple, and then we'll break it all down.
I was like, where do I start? IFBB, pro bikini, retired though. Olympian. I host the IFBB NPC Nashville Fit Show, which was one of the first all-female bodybuilding competitions.
Love that show.
It's not the only one now. There's two more that have copied it since, but
it's a good idea.
Still the original.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I thought so too. So
trendsetter.
Yeah. I also host retreats for women. Basically, everything that I do is just around empowering women.
I love that. So it's very, very similar to what we're doing. Obviously, I'm trying to empower everybody, but you know, we've had all male guests, obviously up to you. And really, the conversation is always centered around like a lot of mental health stuff men deal with and whatnot. So these podcasts tend to be more about empowering men. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and men and women are also obviously very different. So,
hey, well, if you empower men, you're going to naturally empower women. So that's how I feel about it.
We work together. Yeah, without a doubt. So that's awesome, beautiful stuff. We love what you're doing. We're going to break down that a little bit more. If you want to, tell us a little bit about your upbringing.
Upbringing, man, going way back.
Yeah, we're reflecting.
We're going way back.
We want these guests to know who you are because you're obviously going to come back. And so, yeah, just want to know.
I grew up in Tullahoma, Tennessee, little town, about an hour from here. I was always into sports. Basketball was my main sport, played year-round. I was really into school. I mean, I made good grades. I was always expected to be the best.
I made terrible grades.
Really?
A C student all the way through.
Oh, man.
Except for in English. I was really good at that.
They say that C students are the ones that are the owners of businesses. I'm just saying. That's what they say.
Hey, it's a good. All right, thank you.
That's what they say.
It worked out.
It worked out. No, but I was kind of just expected to be the best, and nothing else was really, I had to rise to that. So I made good grades in school. I played all the sports. I was good at sports because I worked really hard at it.
Was that something expected of your family or what? Or?
Yeah. My parents, especially my dad, he just kind of expected me to be the best. And I think he just wanted me to be because he grew up very different. He grew up very, very poor, and he just didn't have all the opportunities to play sports and do things like that. So he really instilled it into me and my brother to, work hard in everything that we do and just try to be excellent.
Hell yeah. I love that. I mean, that's important. And it shows in your life now because you push that towards others, and you obviously, you're living up to that expectation big time.
Yeah.
And you're obviously loving it. It seems that.
Yeah.
It seems that way.
I can drive myself crazy sometimes, but it all works out.
Yeah, for sure. And for those that don't know, I mean, Whitney and I have come across each other quite a few times just through the bodybuilding world, at events and whatnot. And then she married an old friend of mine, Mr. RJ Savage. Don't worry, buddy. We're going to have you on here very soon. You know this. And then we're going to have both of you guys. So your turn is coming, bro. But yeah, and then I've gotten to know you a little bit more because of that. And I know he's super stoked and happy. And I don't know, how long were you all together? I mean, y'all got married pretty quick, right?
Yeah. We dated less than a year. We were married and within less than a year of dating.
See, that's beautiful too. So recently I was told, so I'm engaged now. And I met Lydia back in February. And, I was told by somebody, they're like, you're moving too fast, man, with this and that. You're moving too fast. And I'm like, one, I'm fucking happy. Acknowledge that aspect. I'm in the best place I've ever been in a relationship.
Yeah.
And, when you know. And I know it sounds very cliche, but, I mean, prime examples. I think we both.
When people told me that, like, when I never believed it until I felt it. And I'm like, okay, there's something to this.
Yeah, like people might not be full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden you find someone and you're like, man, this person's the opposite sex, but they're my best friend. Like, how does that even work?
This just works. So that's kind of how it was with him, which we had been friends already before that. And we had known each other just from bodybuilding, the bodybuilding industry.
Of course.
So we started dating, and it was not long. And I'm like, this is easy. I've never experienced a relationship where it was just easy. And it was with him. And I'm like, this is different. And so I just knew, like, really early on, I'm like, this could work.
That's the thing with mine. I mean, you know, she moved in like that pretty much, but it was so easy. Like, we wanted to be around each other all the time.
Yeah.
And just going through it was so easy. I'm like, man, like, this is possible. And
how much does it help you that you're both like such like alpha type characters? Like, he has a busy schedule, you have a busy schedule. Like, you hear that a lot with like professional athletes.
Yeah.
Like, why two professional athletes always work so well together, because, you know, they understand that you're going to be gone. You're going to be gone for a few months at a time and that kind of thing. So like, does that help a lot?
It helps. There's a good and bad side to everything, though. It does help because he's very understanding, very supportive, because he's busy himself. Yeah. But then when we come together, there's always this power struggle. Because I'm used to running my own show. Like, I've had to, it's definitely a learning process of communicating constantly with each other. And sometimes he's got to tell me, hey, I don't work for you. And I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't even know I was like talking like that, but I guess I am. Because when I go into business mode, I'm just, 100 miles an hour. And sometimes I have to stop and be like, wait a minute. I might need to rephrase some of the things that I'm saying so that we can work together here.
Did you find that intimidating at all? Like, for lack of better terms, I guess, because, not many men are used to like this very alpha personality female in their life. And they're like, whoa, it's a different approach, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's always been very supportive, and especially in the beginning, like, he's always said that he loves that about me, my business side and my very directness. But it does cause some problems sometimes with us. And so we're doing marriage coaching. Like, I don't call it counseling, it's coaching, because like, you get a coach in anything you want to be good at. And so that's really helped us a lot, because like, I really want to communicate a lot, and he doesn't talk a lot. And so I'm always like, what are you thinking? And he'd be like, I'm not thinking anything. I'm like, that's impossible. Nobody's not thinking anything.
Nothing is on my mind at all, ever.
He's like, no, I'm really pretty simple. Like, I'm like, no, you're thinking something. And so, like, just figuring all this out. Like, I've never been married before. I've never even lived with anybody before.
Oh, really?
So it's been a huge adjustment. But so it's definitely new to me. But he's super patient, which is exactly what I want.
And how old are you?
35.
35? Mm-hmm. Yeah, a couple years on me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So never lived with anybody. That's a big change, for
big change
at 35.
Big change. Yeah. So that's why it's definitely taken an adjustment, and every day is a learning process. We're never going to get it completely perfect, but as long as we're communicating and progressing in our relationship,
No one's going to get it completely perfect. Mm-hmm. But honestly, and it sounds cliche as well, but communication is key. But, I've been in relationships where, let's see, we'd have a big blowout fight, and I hated it. I hate fighting. I hate arguing. Like, I just love to just talk things through and resolve it and move forward. But it built up because honestly, it builds up to that point because the communication does suck. Because if you're communicating well, you're not going to have these big blowouts, because those usually stem from just bottling shit in.
Yep.
And then something triggers it and you just explode. Yeah. And then you're back and forth. You typically say, hurtful things to each other, and then you regret that. You can't take those things back. Yeah. And that's a big shift for me in this relationship, is that we do communicate. We talk about everything. I mean, she goes to therapy, and her therapist even said, you guys are talking about things that people 20 years in their relationship are just now talking about with me. Wow. And I was like, well, that's really cool. I mean, that's pretty badass, and I think we should stay on track with that. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's really cool. I'm stoked for you guys. I mean, that's a beautiful thing. Any kids, maybe?
He's got a stepdaughter, he's got a daughter, which is now my stepdaughter, who I love. She's 17.
She danced at the show, right?
At the show, yeah.
He came over. He's like, "You see my daughter up there?" He was proud as hell.
She is so awesome, and I feel blessed that like I have her now because I'm not really a kid person.
Y'all got a good relationship?
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah.
She's basically an adult, so I can talk to her. I know how to relate to her. Kids, I don't really want kids. He doesn't really want kids. We've got Cameron, so
You're good.
yeah.
Yeah. So nothing wrong with that. I mean, I can't wait to have kids. So I'm trying to have like 10.
Oh my God.
I'm just kidding. Maybe like 3 or 4. Cut it off there. But yeah, that's always something I've always wanted is children. So I'm stoked for when that comes for sure.
Yeah, I'm good without them.
Yeah. Hey, that works for a lot of people. I know a lot of people are like, nope, good. I got some pets.
Yeah.
You know, that's all
cats.
we need. You got cats?
Yeah.
Cat lady?
Yeah.
I love cats though. We actually just got a cat. I named her Honey. And then now she likes her more than she likes me because I'm never home.
Aww.
And so she doesn't even come cuddle up on me. I'm like, screw you, man. Like, you're the reason. I'm the reason you're here, okay? We rescued you because of me. No, but she did show her to me, and she's great.
No.
We got a couple dogs, but God, they better chill their shit out before we have kids because they're rambunctious as hell together. So
dogs need too much. They need too much attention.
Yeah. I mean, one of my German Shepherd, she's older, so she just barks a lot at shit. But other than that, she's pretty easygoing. You better give her damn treats, and she'll let you know if she doesn't have her treat every night, you're screwed.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, but anyways, okay, so we're going off totally off subject.
Okay.
But that's how it gets on this podcast. I mean, we'll go from pretty sure Landon and I somehow we got on the topic of gambling and casinos.
We went on that for like 30 minutes.
We were talking about gambling, casinos forever, but it was a great conversation. So I love that it varies like that. So you had your upbringing. Did you go to school or anything? Did you go to college or anything like that?
Yeah, actually here at MTSU. I got my,
Right there with you.
Oh, yeah, you did?
Yeah, I graduated from there, a year and a half ago?
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
I got my marketing and business management degree from MTSU.
Nice.
So I, afterwards, that's when I got into fitness more, is like right when I graduated. And then for a few years after, I was like regretting getting a business degree because I'm like, my passion is fitness. Like, why did I not get my fitness degree or something in the,
Yeah, so it's funny you say that because obviously I've told this story a bunch, but I started off nursing because I wanted to help people, and I was just like, I don't want to deal with people like guts and blood. Like if I was a flight nurse, I could do that. But it's just the more gross stuff, man. Like, people pooping and I don't know. I was like, I can't do that. Like I have to clean up dog shit. I'm like gagging. I'm like, oh my God, it's too much. So I was like, you know what? Maybe the nursing thing's not going to work out because there's a lot more to it than just like blood and guts. And then I was like, what's the smart thing to do? And I think that's one thing I always screwed myself with growing up was maybe taking people's opinions, asking for others' opinions too much. Like, hey, what do you think is smart? What'll help me succeed? And they're like, oh, go business degree. That's so diverse. And I'm like, all right, business. And I'll never forget being in accounting class. Like,
that was the worst.
I was like, I don't know if I can get through this degree. Like, not that I couldn't do it, but I didn't want to. I just hated accounting. I hated all that stuff. And now, it's stuff I wish I knew a little more now that I have the building and everything, but I've got a lot of resources. And
now you're running a business. You need that business degree. I mean, not that you need a degree to do like anything that we're doing, but it helps a little bit to know a few things.
Exactly. But it's fun to learn as you go. And like, I've got so many mentors and people with experience in my life that I can go to with these kind of questions and be like, hey, I don't know shit about this.
Yeah.
My dad's really good at financial planning. So he's like helping me break down all my stuff.
Nice.
And like, otherwise, I'd be totally screwed, come tax season, which I've screwed myself already, but, we're catching up on all that. But, it's all a learning process.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But eventually I was like, you know what? I want to get through. I came to school because I had this goal. I wanted just to accomplish my degree because I failed out before I went to the military. And so it was like, go to school, get your degree, like complete that goal. And so, I ended up circling back around to exercise science because I was like, that's what I love. That's what I know.
Is that what you got your degree in?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what I love. That's what I know. So why don't you just stick with that, like hone in on that passion a little bit more.
Yeah.
And finish school in something you enjoy.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I only regretted it for a few years after, but now I'm really glad I have that marketing degree because it really helps with the show and everything that I do. And everything fitness I learned was just through experience.
Yeah.
So now I can combine my knowledge of fitness and marketing, and it really is actually great.
Yeah, no, that is great. I mean, because they both work together for you.
Yeah.
You're involved directly in both of those things. I know in school, like I had some great professors. I learned a lot of great stuff, but most of the stuff I've learned in the exercise world has all been through experience and like engaging with other people in the industry and just learning it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I do stuff when I train clients that are totally not what I was taught in school.
Right.
But that's the way I train and it works. And I just got the experience with it. Yeah. But I'm still glad I did it. Still learned a lot more than I knew.
Yeah.
So it worked out. So, okay, cool. School, business, marketing, it's all working out beautifully for you.
Yes.
So after college, what was next?
That's when I started competing, actually.
What brought you to that? Just being competitive in general?
I didn't know anything about the competing world or bodybuilding or any of that. But one day I was bartending. I bartended downtown on 2nd Avenue while I was still in school. And I was bartending one night and they were having some event there and a trainer comes in and he's sitting at the bar. And I've played sports my whole life. So he saw how muscular my legs were and he was like, have you ever thought about competing?
Was he not just hitting on you?
Well, that's at first. I was like, what are you talking
Whatever.
about? Whatever. I'm like, competing. What is competing?
It happens to me all the time. Dudes are like, dude, your legs and those jorts. And I'm like,
well, calm down.
Calm down, guy. And they're like, no, compete. No, it doesn't happen. But anyways.
No, but he was actually serious. And of course, I had attitude because I'm like, is this dude just hitting on me or something? But really, I didn't know. I had no idea what he was talking about. I was like, compete? Like, what do you mean competing and what? And he's like, figure and bodybuilding competitions. I'm like, I still have no idea what you're talking about. And so he showed me a picture on his phone of somebody, a figure competitor that he trained that just competed. So he shows me a picture of her on stage and I look at it and I'm like, ew, no, I would never want to look like that.
So you'd literally never even heard of it?
No.
Like you had no idea.
This was in 2009.
Okay.
It wasn't the cool thing to do back then.
Right.
Oh, now it's on the map. I mean, especially.
Now it is.
I look around Murfreesboro and Murfreesboro's heavily involved in that.
That's what Charles was. Charles was like, this is like the mecca at this point in this area of bodybuilding. I was like, man, I know a lot of people up here that bodybuild. I didn't know it was like that though.
I think, especially in Tennessee,
it's really caught on. But so this was in 2009 though. Like it wasn't a thing really.
Yeah.
So
I was joining the military in 2009. Yeah.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah, a little bit ago.
So that was the first year that the bikini division started. And
oh shit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't even a thing, and that's like the biggest division now.
Right. That was the first year of starting. And so after that interaction or whatever, he gave me his number, and it took me like over a month to really, like, it kept coming back to my mind. And even though like I still thought that was a weird thing, I knew it'd be challenging, and so it just kept coming back to my head. And so like a month and a half later, I texted him and I was like, okay, so if I did want to start competing, I'm not saying I do, but if I did, like what would it take to get started? And he was like, meet me at the gym, I'll start training you, I'll show you, what a diet is like or whatever. And so I did, and I saw, when I came to the gym the first time, I saw the cover of a magazine, I think it was Flex magazine, on the wall, and Jessica Paxson, which I don't know, her last name now is Moan, Jessica Moan. I don't know if you know who that is.
I'm bad with names.
It's okay. She hasn't competed in years, but she was a figure competitor, but she was beautiful and she looked so feminine with the muscle that she had. And I was like, I want to look like that. I was like, I didn't know muscle could look like that on a woman.
So that was your goal.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
And so then I was like, wow, she looks really feminine and strong. So I want to do that. And so I started training. I wanted to compete in figure, but I only had 8 weeks until the Knox Classic. So there's only the Knox Classic and the state show back then.
Now there's like countless.
Yeah. Now we have several.
Yeah.
But
now you have your own show.
Now I have my own show. I would have never thought that back then, ever.
Here you are.
Here I am. So I prepped for 8 weeks, and we found out really quickly putting muscle on in my upper body was just like not happening, which you can't really do in 8 weeks anyway.
Yeah.
But
take some time.
Yeah. So he's like, why don't you just prep like you're prepping for figure, but just compete in bikini? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well,
so did you have, real quick, did you have any kind of expectations like, hey, I can get to this muscle in this time frame? Or was he like, did he have to shoot it down?
I had no idea. I thought I could really get that much muscle.
Because a lot of people's expectations and just fitness in general are, I hate to say it, but very realistic. I've had clients come to me like, I want to look like this like in a couple months. And I'm like, it takes years sometimes, especially, if you're doing it all natural and everything, like you gotta, it's a process, and you got to be consistent. We can get you there, but not in 2 months.
I really had no idea what it would take. I don't think I had really any expectations. Like, I knew what I wanted to look like, but I didn't really know. Like, I didn't think I would look like exactly like that within a couple months. I was just going to do the best that I could.
Yeah.
But I feel like it took over a year to even look like I even worked out. Like, that's how long it took to put muscle in my upper body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you did it.
Yeah.
And how'd you do that first show?
I got second place in my class, which, if you could have seen the bikini posing back then, it was just a free fall for all, like, there was no posing coaches.
I'll have to check this out.
Hopefully there's no pictures anywhere of this.
Oh, we can find them. The internet is there.
You know there are.
So I got second place, and I was really mad because, of course, I'm competitive. I wanted to win. And I was mad because I knew I cut corners along the way because I'm prepping for the unknown. I don't know what it takes. I'm just kind of guessing. And I knew some days I didn't get my cardio in. I knew I might have skipped some meals, or I might have had an extra, food that I wasn't supposed to have every now and then. And so I was mad because I knew if I would have followed the plan 100% and given it my all, I would have won.
That's what it takes.
So I was mad at myself. So honestly, from that show forward, it lit a fire in me that never went out. And I started prepping for the Knox Classic the very next year. Like, for a whole year, I was in a zone. And so I kept coming back and getting second place. And I'm like, I'm following the plan now. Like, why am I not winning? And somebody had mentioned to me, they're like, you have a really athletic look. This is still a new division, so a lot of the more curvy girls are winning locally, but maybe you'll do better at a national level show. I didn't even know what that meant. Like, what is a national level? I'm like, Okay. I was like, all right, well, it took me a while to work up the confidence and courage to even think, I could even compete at the national level.
Present yourself up there, yeah.
So I went in with no expectations. I was like, my goal is to get top 15, but I hustled like I had nothing to lose, so I just prepped as hard as I could. And then I went into my first national level show, and I won. I won my class at Junior USA's in 2011. And they were only giving away 2 pro cards. So out of the 6 height classes that there were, 2 of the winners turned pro. And I'm like, man, I was pretty close.
Yeah.
Maybe I could be pretty good at this. And so I went to Junior Nationals, which I wasn't even going to go to Junior Nationals 4 weeks later. I was going to go compete at the Battle at the River.
Oh, nice. God, that show was still around then?
2011.
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
And so Tony Haynes and Valerie Haynes, I was doing my own prep at that point, but they just happened to be at Junior USA's. I'm not sure why, but that's when I started becoming friends with them. And I told Tony, I'm just going to go compete at Battle at the River. He's like, are you insane?
Do I know Tony and Valerie?
Probably. Team Haynes training.
Sounds vaguely familiar to me.
It's very familiar to me.
Yeah. If I know it, you definitely know it.
Yeah.
I'll probably run into them at some point.
I'm sure.
God, I wish I was better with names.
It's okay.
Oh, well.
I'm really bad with names, too. And I feel so bad about it. I'm like, I promise I didn't mean to. I promise I tried to remember it. Half the time I meet people, I'm like, oh, hey, and I hear their name, and it's just in one ear, out the other because I'm doing something else. And the next time I see them, I'm not doing anything else. I'm like,
your name again? And we make such a big deal about it, like forgetting someone's name, but it's pretty common. I just always feel bad. I don't know why. Yeah. No one's going to be like, screw you. You forgot my name in 30 minutes. I hate you. What? So, but real quick. So at the end of the day, you found that competitive spirit, you were always an athlete and striving to be the best you can. So you found something that fed that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what leads a lot of people into bodybuilding because it's like Charles and I talked about. It probably is the toughest sport. I mean, don't get me wrong. All sports are tough in their own right. But, when I played football growing up, it was just like, Adams, eat everything. Just get as big as you can. I was like, okay, there's no diet plan. I didn't know what macros were. I was like, my mom's making pasta. I'm just going to eat extra every night, just gain weight and just practice, you know? And so you do got to practice your ass off to improve, but you're not paying attention to the other shit. And,
everything matters in bodybuilding.
Yeah. And it's
everything, sleep, your workout intensity, your hydration level, what you're putting in your body, everything matters.
Yeah. I think that one other sport that's comparable, I think fighting's a lot like that, especially when you're in a training camp working towards a fight. And if you got to cut weight down, you got to, get like a pound below that, cutoff, those guys got to train 2 or 3 times a day constantly. And then on top of getting rest in order so that they can train and not get knocked out or injured or whatever.
It's a whole other level.
Yeah. So, and then they have to pay attention to the diet as well because they're cutting down weight. So, I mean, I think that's the only, when I think about, that's probably the only other sport comparable when it comes to it. And then bodybuilding, honestly though, year round, it takes that attention.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the fighters, the only thing with the fighters too that makes it difficult is a lot of times like if you want to compete in, at 160, most of the guys competing at 160 are, walking around at 185, 190. So you're cutting a lot of weight to compete at a certain, and like for me, for example, I'm not very tall. So even at somewhat lower weights, like 155, for example, there's a lot of guys that are 6 feet tall because they're coming down from 175 or whatever. So I have to like cut even more weight to try to get people that are my height. Because if you go too far up, you're definitely going to have people that are, your size cutting down to 180, whatever. Sure. So it's interesting. But Charles's point about that was that it's 24/7 all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to be good at it.
Yeah. And of course, in the off season, you get a little bit more freedom, I'm sure. You can enjoy some stuff, but you still got to pay attention to that shit. You can't go crazy.
Oh, I already learned my lesson too many times in the beginning, like rebounding really hard.
After a show?
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. So many times. Like it always takes
me. What does that mean?
Like going crazy and eating a lot and then gaining like 20 pounds in 2 weeks. Yeah. And then putting yourself in a real bad position.
Oh, had to cut out. Oh, yeah. And that happens. I competed once back in like 2013. I think I just got back from deployment. And, when I was deployed, I'd like started really learning about nutrition and stuff. So I had actually, he just passed away. There's a coach from up here, older guy. He worked with Dallas McCarver for a long time.
John O'Regan?
Yeah, John O'Regan. So I was living in Florida, and my buddy BG up in Lebanon got me connected with John O'Regan. I had no idea. And so he was actually got me ready for my first show ever. Okay. And I finally met him when I moved up here, which was pretty cool at a show. RIP. But anyways, he got me ready for a show, and, I stayed on top of it, and I did the best I could because I was working on the flight line in the military. So it was always just cold food. Every day because I didn't have a microwave. I'm at work, just sneaking what I could.
What you gotta do.
But it was a grind, but I enjoyed the whole process. I really did. Just watching that transformation and everything, and getting to that point. And I didn't win. I went into a pretty big show.
Yeah.
Natural as
And it's hard to have success after one show too. And I tell competitors this all the time. I'm like, don't think you're going to go into your first show and win the whole thing.
Knock it out of the park. Yeah.
No, that doesn't happen. Your first time on stage is not going to be your best time on stage.
Honestly, I think the first time should just be about you. Like,
and
focus on
your
you.
Body.
Yeah, to me, it was just like, I didn't have expectations going into it, but I knew I was going to go in there looking the best I ever have in my life, and that I appreciated the whole process and the discipline it took me to get there.
Yeah.
Regardless of what the outcome was, it gave me that gratification. I was like, Joe, you did something cool. You know what I'm saying? And you put yourself out there in front of all these people. Like, you broke... Because you get all those nerves, you got the lights shining down and the eyes on you. I mean, it is a lot, It's
a lot.
So it takes a lot of courage, and
most people can't do that either. It's like I coach competitors on posing, more than just posing though, like just mindset stuff. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, don't be a bad sport when you get off stage, because you're doing something that probably less than 1% of the entire population can do, and everybody's looking to you as a role model because you did it. You followed through, you were committed, you were disciplined enough to make this happen. So keep that in mind.
I saw a guy go, go ahead.
I was just going to say that one thing that Charles said, for one thing, we got like a minute, so we'll have to stop. But
I got to pee anyway.
One thing that Charles said that I thought was a really interesting way to put it is he's like, you're up there and you look the best that you've ever looked in your entire life. You look like a freaking god. I don't think he said that, but that's how I'll put it. You look like a god amongst men. And the response is like, yeah, but your lats could be a little more full, your abs are, it's like, it's a very interesting thing to think about, because most people, if they looked half of what a bodybuilder looked like, would be like, holy shit, it's the best shape I've ever been in.
Oh, yeah.
But you have these people who probably, some of them I'm sure competed, but in general, it's like you're sitting down there writing little notes while I was the one that, created all of this. It's got to be an interesting thing.
Mm-hmm. If I got out there, they'd be like, you got way too many tattoos. You need to get rid of some of those things first. I feel like that would probably have a negative effect. I've heard it does.
No.
I don't know. Oh, okay. Well,
no. As a judge.
Okay. You would know. I have no idea.
So I've got this retreat coming up, Building Influence in Belize. It's going to be January 23rd through the 28th. and it is for women only. It's about creating an impact with your influence that you have.
So if I identify as I'm
No.
just kidding. I'm joking.
No, we don't do that. What you were born as is what you come as.
Okay, deal.
Okay.
I like that.
I'm hosting it to talk about branding. Even if somebody doesn't have their own business, we all have a brand, whether we realize it or not. What we're putting out on social media, that's our brand. So I want to kind of relay that message and let people know that they need to be intentional about their branding and what they're putting out there. So that's what we're getting away to do. And Belize is beautiful.
I mean, it's a vacation mixed with a lot of knowledge and building some beautiful relationships. I mean, you can't go wrong with that.
No, it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
You can find more information on Instagram at Her Styles Events.
Okay. Her Styles Events. Everybody check that out. Is that a practice run or you want to keep it there?
All right.
I think we're good to go.
Did you do yours already?
Well, I was just trying to save time. And also, you know, this is brought to you by Relentless Pursuit. You know what we do. Check us out on Instagram at relentless_pursuit. Also, the headquarters, Relentless Pursuit _HQ as well. RelentlessPursuitLifestyle.com for all of our apparel and everything else going on. And then check out this podcast on every platform. Just keep it rolling. Share, like, you know, get it out there. We're trying to do some positive shit with really amazing people, and we want to keep this baby rolling. So back at it. Let's see. So we kind of got a little bit through your upbringing story. We've, you know, veered off quite a bit, but I think we've gathered a lot of great information. So working through bodybuilding, you know, you got into it. You're competing at national shows, all that stuff, building that confidence. So from then moving forward, you know, I know you've got a pretty crazy story I've heard briefly at your events, and that's something I think is very powerful and that we would love to share with everybody, you know, and everything post that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take off with it.
Sure. So it was right around that time that I was, you know, just kind of gaining momentum in the fitness industry and having a little bit of success. And I was in an abusive relationship, and that's actually why I even went to compete at the national level, because he told me I couldn't do it and I wouldn't be good enough. And so that's probably why I prepped so hard and won.
That'll fire your ass up.
Oh yeah.
If you got the right mindset.
Tell me tell me I can't do something, and I will prove you wrong every time.
That's always been, I know I don't like to get into astrology, but what are you?
Scorpio.
Okay, cool. I don't know a whole lot about Scorpio. I'm an Aries, so it's one of those things.
Some
it's a
of my
fiery
best
thing.
friends are Aries because we have a lot of similarities.
Yeah, hell yeah. If someone tells me I can't do something, I'm like, guns blazing. I'm like, I'm going to show your ass. I'm going to do more than that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Well, so
exactly. So I competed. After I competed twice, won both my first national level shows. I was going.
Pull your mic just a little forward. No, other way. In front of you a little bit more.
Oh.
Yeah, there you go.
Hold up. Is that good? Mic check.
That's good.
2, 1, 2. Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Okay. So after all that, I finally made the decision that this relationship was not good for me or anybody. So I ended it. And within a couple of weeks, he kind of just, you know, wasn't letting go and wanted to meet me up at work. I had a corporate job at the time.
Okay.
And he called me, was very emotional, and wanted to meet me to talk about things. And so I was on my lunch break from work, and I finally gave in. I was like, I'll meet you outside in the parking lot at my job. So he came up there, got into his SUV. We talked for like maybe 5 minutes, and it was just circles of an argument and conversation like normal. And I was like, this is not good for you. It's not good for me.
It's
like
toxic.
Yeah, this is just no point in even talking about it anymore. So I got out of the SUV, I shut the door, I started walking back across the parking lot, and he pulls out of the parking space and then just floors it toward me. And I just kind of looked at him, and everybody's like, why didn't you like jump out of the way? And I'm like, I didn't really think anybody was that crazy. Like, I thought he was just trying to scare me by revving the engine.
Yeah.
You know? And so he just hit me full on, and I never tried to jump out of the way because, again, I'm like, I did not know anybody would really actually do something
Run
like
you
that.
over with a damn car on purpose.
With an SUV. Yeah.
Jesus.
So I just smashed into the grill. I slid under the vehicle, got caught under the vehicle somehow, and got dragged across the parking lot. And then whenever, I got unstuck from whatever was holding me under it, it let me go. And then the rear tire actually rolled over my midsection and crushed my spine. And of course, I didn't know exactly, what had happened, but from the eyewitness telling me that's what happened, like the tire rolled over my midsection and crushed me. So I think I might have lost consciousness for a few seconds, but I was fully awake the whole time. And
Were you in a lot of pain?
Oh my gosh, so much pain, like excruciating. And all my ribs were broken, my spine was crushed, so I couldn't breathe really, really well either. And I'm just in so much pain, like you don't know what the extent of what happened. And so I would have tried to get up because I just didn't, I was in so much pain. I was just trying to move around and get up. And so there was one eyewitness that saw the whole thing. The second eyewitness kind of just saw the tail end of it. Well, he just happened to be a former EMT. So he knew not to let me move or get up. So he held my shoulders and my neck in place, and they wouldn't let me get up.
It's like a guardian angel.
Yeah.
I mean, because if it could have been anybody else, you never know.
No, God definitely put the correct people in the correct place because, he's in control of everything. So because of that, I'm not paralyzed today. The only reason why I'm not paralyzed is because that guy was there.
I've got to add, too, when I had my accident, and I was laying in that field. So the SRO officer at Case and Academy, he happened to be out to his car getting something. So when he heard the accident in the intersection, it alarmed him. So he ran over and he made sure, if it wasn't for him, there's a good chance I wouldn't be here because he was ex-Marine and had all this special training, and he knew a lot more from whatever his profession was before that and everything. So he was able to recognize that my lung was collapsed and all this stuff. And so he's the one that called the life flight. He was like, this guy needs a life flight. And you never know if it could have been somebody else with a little less knowledge.
They wouldn't have known to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have made it. I would have bled out, So crazy to think about, And I remember going to visit him when I could finally start walking again. I walked into elementary school and I saw him. I just gave him a hug. I started bawling my eyes out. It was such an emotional experience. But I was like, man, you saved me.
Yeah.
And so I'm forever grateful.
Yeah.
Larry Maples, you're the man. So, but
Yes,
anyways.
I get it. So they called, 911, of course, right away. The officers were on the scene immediately. And I could, even though I was having a hard time breathing and talking, I was completely coherent and was able to give the detectives, this is the make and model of the vehicle. This is the way he was headed.
Oh, so he took off.
I was about to ask you. So he
never hit the brakes.
Fucking coward.
Never hit the brakes.
Never hit the brakes.
God fucking damn.
Got right on the interstate. Just sped out of the parking lot and got right on the interstate. And so I had a pretty good idea of where he would head because his family is from East Tennessee. So, so I kind of gave him some clues, and they were able to catch him within minutes and take him into custody.
So assuming he's there.
What?
Doing his time.
No. He served.
Oh, okay.
So he served. So get this: the maximum for second-degree attempted murder is 8 to 12 years.
That's it?
Yeah, which was devastating to me going through the court system and then realizing the max amount of time for this violent crime was 12 years. And people with drug charges, nonviolent crimes, get way more time than that. And I'm
super jacked up.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah, it's bullshit.
So, and I wasn't going to go for first degree because I didn't think there was any way that we could prove it. And then I knew the whole process would get drug out so much longer, and I just didn't want to deal with it anymore.
So much more emotional trauma.
It was already so hard. It took a little bit over a year to go through the court system, and I didn't want to go any longer. I just couldn't. So, so he got out, time served, the beginning of 2020. So right when he got out, the world was shutting down.
Oh shit!
For COVID, so it's kind of ironic.
How about it? He brought some badness to us when he was released.
But I was able to forgive him within a couple weeks of that happening, which is obviously not me. That's some kind of supernatural. God gave me the peace that I needed to forgive him for what he did, because I knew if I held on to it, it was just going to eat me alive.
It does. It's it's a vibrational thing. I talk about this before with some people, but you know, the more like distaste and like anger or whatever these negative emotions is you feel towards other people, it lowers your vibration, right? The thing is, you couldn't be doing anything wrong. You just feel this way towards that person, but it affects everything else in your life.
Oh, yeah.
And you notice other things in your life just start to go downhill a little bit, as opposed to just moving forward, you know, forgiving, thinking positively, and just being like, you know what, at least I'm blessed to be alive. Whatever happens to him down the road or karma or whatever, that's going to happen. And your life starts to elevate a lot more and those vibrations go up. So it's just one of those things too.
Yeah. I was in such a weird mental space too at the time. Like I just didn't have room to hold like that anger and bitterness. Like I was still angry a lot, but I just wasn't directing it at him. I was just directing it at the situation and just using it to try to propel myself forward. Like I had to be so focused and intentional on my recovery and getting back to the stage, which nobody, you know, everybody said I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So again, I'm like, well, then I'm going to do it, definitely.
Yeah.
Like,
now you're like, fuck yeah, now I got even more purpose. You know?
Yeah. It was just so hard, the negativity, like from everybody around me, when everybody tells you like, there's no way you can't do that's like not humanly possible. You can't do it. It's so hard. Like I had to just block everybody out.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even allow, like I was pretty mean about it too, which I don't care now, but I was not nice. Like I just would not let anybody just continue the conversation if they were trying to put any doubt in my mind. And a lot of people do that too. I just want to bring up that like it's not always, you know, it's not to be malicious. It usually comes from people that love you. They just don't want you to get your hopes up.
Yeah.
But it comes as negativity and it's not helpful, but they think they're helping you.
They can't just be happy for you and push you regardless. And I've run into that, you know, people just, oh, you're going to have problems down the road with this situation, or, you know, talk about the relationship thing. You know, we moved fast, but we're happy as fuck. And people are, oh, well, I just think you're going to have issues a few years down the road. And like, why are you even saying these negative things?
Why
are you even
helpful?
speaking that into existence?
Yeah.
Just be positive and be there for me if I need you, but don't be a dick and just shoot it all down. And yeah, you could be coming from a good place, but it's not the right way.
Right. Yeah. So exactly. So that was one of the hardest parts, I guess, is like, you know, I'm trying to deal with these physical obstacles now, and then like the mental and emotional stuff too on top of it. So
it really tested you.
Yeah.
I mean, physical, mental, emotional, like I can relate, not in a totally different way. You know, I wasn't run over by somebody on purpose. I was run over by somebody and it was a complete accident. But you know, there's still just so much trauma there that you have to overcome.
Yeah.
But I don't know, you were already I'd imagine you already had a decent following and had a lot of eyes on you as well. Did that kind of keep you?
Little, not much, not really. I was only 2 years into competing. Like, I had just competed at the national level 2 times, and I had won. So eyes were just starting to get on me, but I really didn't know that at the time.
Yeah.
But when I came back to the stage, like a year, I can't remember when I was really starting to realize how many people were watching me. It was like a year or two later. I was backstage at like junior nationals or something, and girls were coming up to me like, hey, like, it's so awesome that you're here. I've been following your journey. And I'm like, what? Me?
Yeah. I got chills from that because it's so relatable in that sense that the amount of inspiration you don't even realize you have on people when they see what you're overcoming, because people are watching regardless, even if you don't know it.
Yeah.
And it's really cool when they approach you and they're like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I love your story. And that's, it almost makes it worth it, you know?
It's crazy. One of the girls was, I don't know if you know who Ashley Kotwasser is, but she's won the Olympia 3 times.
Okay, so I should know.
Yeah. Well, you probably don't follow the bikini division, but she was one of the ones before she turned pro. She came up to me and she had been following my journey, and I looked at her. I was like, "You look really good. You're gonna win today." And she won. She won as junior nationals, and then she turned pro the next show, and then she ended up winning the Olympia 3 times, years later. And I'm like, man, I knew she was gonna do good.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you know, back to all that though, you know. I think that story, as unfortunate as it was, as shitty as the whole experience was, look what's come from it.
Yeah.
And that's how I look at things like that, you know. And I got this tattoo on my wrist to always remind me, amor fati is Latin for the love of one's fate. And it's looking at everything in life, no matter what you've been through, as either good or necessary. None of it's bad. And so I look at everything in my life, and I've had all this shit that a lot would say is pretty bad, but I'm like, man, that was necessary for who I am today, and that's necessary for where I'm going. And I'm grateful for that experience. As odd as it sounds, I'm still grateful because I am who I am now, and life is going where it is now.
You gotta have that mindset. You gotta have that mindset, and it's like it's the same thing, but in different words. It's like you can look at things like things are happening to you or they're happening for you.
Yes.
So same thing. It's happening for you, and as weird as it sounds, I'm grateful for my story and my testimony because, like, if I didn't have that, then I'm just another bikini competitor. Like, plenty of people have been to the Olympia. I know that's a great, like, accomplishment, but to overcome that and then get there, that's different.
Even bigger.
It's even bigger.
Yeah.
And when I tell my story, walls come down. Like, I can reach people, like, on another level because when they hear what I've gone through, it's like everybody has pain and things that they've been through. And when they realize that you've experienced pain just as bad, if not worse than them, walls come down immediately and you can connect with them.
That's why I talked about being, authenticity being key and just being completely vulnerable. And that's what we're doing here. And that's what I've always done with RP is because I get random messages all the time from people that just telling me their whole life story, like some deep shit they've been going through. And I'm like, I don't even know you. And here you are coming to me with this testimony. And I think it's beautiful. And it's like, man, that's the reason I do what I do.
Yeah.
And so I think it's really cool that you had that to share with people and reach them. And I mean, it seems that you've really inspired a lot of women. I mean, from everything I see with like the Fit Show and everything, like women love you. They're like, Whitney's amazing, and I think you should have a lot of pride in that and be proud of that because, you've taken what's been given to you and just turn it into something beautiful.
Yeah,
so,
I try.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. I know you.
I was just going to say, I think that Steve did the same thing, and then Joe, it brought something that Joe had said, but Steve actually said 10 more minutes? That's about how much time we have anyway.
Okay, cool.
Steve had said something about, during one of the podcasts, he actually used the words that he's an amputee, Whitney, and he actually used the words on the podcast that he was grateful for that. Like he said it was such an opportunity, I think is how he said it.
Yeah.
And then I stopped and I was like, wait, let's go back to that. And then he, without knowing it, said something very similar whenever he was talking about his story. And it's just always amazing. And Charles said the same thing too.
Yeah.
And so like, it's always incredible for me sitting on, like, for one thing, every time I leave here, I feel so grateful because I'm just, nothing that I went through is anything like that. But it's really interesting to hear you guys as a group always like, and you guys are people that took that. And it's like I called you the other day. I said, if we make a shirt, I want it to say no burdens, only opportunities.
Yeah.
Right. So like you took that as not a burden, as an opportunity. And you're all testimonies to like, if you have that mindset, even with something as horrific as what the four of you have been through, look at all of you now, and obviously the person who doesn't have that mindset is probably not going to make their way to a podcast, which is unfortunate, but it's a good testimony to those people that are maybe, riding that line of like this, something has happened to them or whatever. And you can see kind of people who are, have come out on the other side. I think it's a really powerful thing.
Yeah. I mean, well, not everybody. I mean, statistically, not everybody's going to come out of these situations like guns blazing. Statistically, the majority, and there's a book on it I brought up a couple of times, but 80% of people are going to go downhill. So, but it's cool because they hear people like us talk about what we've been through and overcome. And they're like, here I am in this hole going through this and that. And then I look at their life and look at all they're accomplishing. Like, I'm the only one that's been holding myself back because they've been through the same or maybe even worse, and they're crushing it. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, too, it just shows you that there's no excuses. You can push. Excuse me. You can push through. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's really cool.
But I also, like, I'm not going to sit here and act like it's been a great road and an easy road either. No, and I still like struggle like with certain things and mindset and have to remind myself, it's a never ending battle, and you just have to make the choice each day to rise above it because crazy thoughts come to my head all the time. And it was just like probably a couple months ago. I'm like, I'm so sick of telling my story. Like, I thought that, and I'm like, and right after it, I was like, how dare you even think that this is a blessing, and you can't treat your blessings as burdens.
Of course.
So it's like it's always a struggle because crazy things are going to come to your mind all the time and try to fight you on it, and you just have to to make the choice to rise above it and not let yourself go into a negative spiral.
That's just the human mind in general. Just it's going to go some crazy places, and you either got to like fight it or not. You know, I mean, earlier this year I was telling him about me being, you know, struggling with some really bad anxiety, and you know, so Lydia kind of just helped me realize a lot of things that I didn't realize I had been dealing with, but anxiety being one of them. And there was a point, you know, I was up for hours one night just crying. I was like, dude, you should be dead. Like, why did you even survive your wreck? There's so many more people that are more worthy of the opportunity you've been given. And it just like, I knew it was fucked up, and I knew that I shouldn't be thinking that, but it was just this spiral. It was like, and it was just sucking me down. I'm just
I'm
like, go, go, go. And I lost my shit. And the next day I was like, what happened? You know? And of course, you know, I'm talking to a counselor, and I'm, you know, trying to be progressive as far as like overcoming those things. But it happens, especially when you've been through some crazy trauma. Those things are going to come back. Like the wreck is implanted in my head. I think about it every day. It's a part of everything I do. Sometimes it just sucks to think about.
Yeah.
What do you do? What do you two do? And I guess we'll throw it to Whitney first. Whenever you are having that moment when it's spiraling, do you have like a go-to, or you just kind of wait it out, or?
Man, it's been hard because I've been dealing with a lot of anxiety here lately too. So it's first of all, not letting myself get into the negative spiral, because once you get there, stopping it seems
That's me 100%. I just got to cut it off.
Hard. It's so hard. What I do, I rely a lot on my faith and spirituality. So I read the Bible. Like, I have to go back, and it's lies that come to our mind. It's always lies that the enemy tries to plant. And so I go to the Word because that's truth. And so I can almost, you know, just combat it with that. And like, who does God say that I am? Like, I'm not weak. You know, he says I'm strong. And trying to go back to that, I rely on that. I wouldn't have got through anything without that, honestly. I read somewhere that spirituality is the key to resilience, which I didn't even know that, but I just read that recently. I'm like, man, that is so true.
So I can relate to that too. So my spirituality differs. I mean, I'm very open about my beliefs. They're, you know, I believe in God, but through my own ways. And anyways, but the spirituality aspect is something that always brings me back home, you know, and like one thing I do is I meditate, you know, and I take on like ancient practices in order to like overcome things mentally. My buddy, my brother Jake gave me this practice to do, and he said, you know, work on it. I'll tell you about it afterward, because maybe it's something that can help you, but you do this certain breathing technique, and then you repeat, you kind of just envision yourself there, and you name these things. So I'm like, anxiety, overthinking, jealousy, or whatever. You name these things and you say, I see you, I name you, but you are not me. And you picture them in just some kind of red color around you, and you just tell them that like they are separate from you, but they're trying to get in. And I don't know, it's just something that
super interesting.
I've started incorporating that. It's been extremely helpful.
Kind of similar to that, just like disconnecting yourself from that emotion. Somebody was telling me, like, the voices in your head, just know that they are voices. They are not you. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. That's a total mindset shift for me, because you get tricked in the fact, like, thinking those are your thoughts.
You identify. You identify with your thoughts and emotions. Right. Your thoughts and emotions, you can't identify with them. It's really difficult, especially emotions are hard not to identify with. But you can say like, okay, that's anger. Like you said, awareness is the biggest thing, right? In most cases, like that's anger.
Awareness for sure.
And then you almost don't even have to do anything. It's like just bringing awareness to it sometimes is just enough to where your mind's like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Yep. And you just kind of...
The darkness is always going to try to seep in everything in life. You know, we see that through the news, through social media. It's like there's always some dark aspect. And I feel like I'm pretty aware, and I'm like, man, that's not good. And so... it's always just trying to do his thing. But the only thing you have control over is yourself, right? And your thoughts. So you can fight that.
Yeah. Yeah. And you cast out darkness with light. So you have to remember that, stay positive, remember the light.
Hell yeah. Well, I know we're running short on time, unfortunately, because this has been great. Moving forward, because we're going to get back and we're going to talk more about this stuff. Obviously, after I just do one with RJ, we'll have all three of us here. Well, four of us. But, real quick, so, man, it's such a great story, and I want to, dive deeper into that another time. But moving forward, what are you doing now? Like, what's ahead for you as far as, like, what are your relentless pursuits? You know what I'm saying? Because you embody what Relentless Pursuit is about, and I love that.
Relentless.
And I love having people on here that embody what that is.
Yeah.
So, moving forward, what do you got going on?
Just expanding my events, adding more retreats and more conferences and workshops, and just speaking life into women. And, I feel like my purpose is to empower them, but I keep coming back to the verse in the Bible that says, set the captives free. And I'm like, what does that mean? When something comes to my brain and I don't understand it, I just ask myself questions. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what, free from what?
Yeah.
Free from wrong beliefs or limiting beliefs, wrong mindsets or things that are in women that, have been instilled in them but aren't true. And so that's what I'm here to do, is like, a lot of women, especially with a past like mine, that have been in really bad relationships, they've been told lies over and over and over about themselves. Like, you're not enough, you're hard to love, you're hard to be with, nobody else is going to love you.
Yeah.
All these things. And
a lot of that comes from masculine figures, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Too. So.
Yeah. So who also need to be empowered. That's why it's important to empower men so that they don't tear women down and they can support women. And
of course.
empower. So it's we work together. It's back and forth. But that's my purpose in life, is just to keep empowering women and keep speaking the truth.
Well, anything we can do to help you in your endeavors. I mean, I'd love to give some kind of contribution from like the masculine side of thing to also empower women, because I want to empower everybody. You know what I'm saying? So anything we can do, we'll get some ideas rolling for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. But anyways, I think we got to close out. She's a busy lady. She's got a roll, but she will be back. And thank you so much for coming. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Yes,
This is
ma'am.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. And y'all can find her on Instagram at
Whitney Wiser Fit.
Yes, ma'am. All right, cool. And we got my boy Logan doing all the stuff, recording, talking, editing. We couldn't do this without him. Check him out at Cinema 83 LLC on Instagram. Yes, for all your needs when it comes to that. And check out Relentless Pursuit. I'll give you all that another time. But let's close this out. Thank you for coming. Appreciate you.
Sweet.
That went really well.
Awesome. Yeah.
What do you think?
It's good.
Hell yeah.
It's good.
Cool.
I could go on forever about that stuff. So.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I hate when time starts winding down.